From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Hello and welcome to U.S. Farm Report. I'm Clinton Griffiths in for Tyne Morgan, and here's what we have in store over the next 60 minutes. As the federal government makes sweeping job cuts, USDA says some of those cuts may have been made by mistake. From a response to DOGE to saying she's ready to barnstorm the world on trade, we have an exclusive conversation with the newly confirmed Secretary of Agriculture. A Colorado farmer who's learned to pivot in order to reshape his family's farming legacy and grow.
At the end of the day, this is about family. It's about growing an operation. It's about growing a community.
We introduce you to the 2025 Top Producer of the Year. And she traded the Big Apple for a community beef business.
Being a woman in this industry and being a black woman, I think the number one thing is I honestly have the best support system here in my community.
We celebrate Top Producer's Women in Ag winner, whose mission is bigger than just beef. Now this week, we were in Kansas City at the 2025 Top Producer Summit, where some of the biggest and best producers in the country gathered, and they got to hear from the new person in charge of USDA. Brooke Rollins making this event one of her first official stops since being confirmed to be the next Secretary of Agriculture. Now, Rollins holding a fireside chat led by Kansas Senator Dr. Roger Marshall. She spoke about her goals for the agency and her priorities, which include working to get the current avian flu outbreak under control. After that, the Farm Journal team was given exclusive access for a one-on-one with the Secretary. Now, we asked her about the excitement and nervousness surrounding the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and the impact it could have on farmers and ranchers.
The importance of this agency to our farmers and ranchers and programs like the farm loans, et cetera, those are imperative to a thriving rural America. And with President Trump's 90% approval amongst the rural community, the farmers and the ranchers have been with him since he came down the escalator in 2015. I sincerely believe that those programs that are essential to keeping those communities thriving and hopefully even more prosperous going forward, that we'll work with DOGE to ensure that there is an understanding of how important those are.
Now, part of those budget cuts involve job cuts, and USDA is admitting that several positions supporting efforts to fight avian flu were accidentally fired. The agency saying it is working to swiftly rectify the situation and rescind letters sent to those employees. A spokesperson said USDA continues to prioritize the response to highly pathogenic avian influenza. Rollins also discussing that with us here at Top Producer.
I know the team back in Washington, led by our chief of staff and our amazing team there, are taking every one of those calls right now and reevaluating every single decision. So that is the commitment as well, that this is not a one and done, good luck, goodbye. This is all right, this was a first step. Now let's evaluate and move from there.
And you can watch Secretary Rollins' entire fireside chat at Top Producer on the Farm Journal YouTube channel. Rollins announcing at the end of the week that the first tranche of funding paused due to a review of Inflation Reduction Act allocations will soon be going out. The agency releasing approximately $20 million for the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, or EQIP, the Conservation Stewardship Program, and the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. The Secretary citing regulatory burdens, environmental policies, and inflation as major challenges. Now, she criticized the Biden administration's handling of Inflation Reduction Act funding, but affirmed commitments to farmers who had already made investments. You heard the new Ag Secretary speaking about prioritizing efforts to combat avian flu, and now the Trump administration is rolling out a new strategy against it, moving away from mass culling of infected flocks. The plan prioritizes enhanced biosecurity measures and medication to control the spread of the virus. Targeted containment methods will enhance efficiency in preventing outbreaks, with government scientists and global academic experts contributing to the plan's development. But the plan's success hinges on industry adoption and global trade acceptance. And that's it for news. Now, a major snowstorm buried several states this week. Well, if you're tired of the cold weather, a big warm-up is on the way. We'll take a look at that coming up next.
U.S. Farm Report is brought to you by Pioneer. Next-level yields start with genetics proven to perform. Pioneer. Next-level yields start here.
An Arctic air mass remained parked over the central U.S. this week, bringing widespread record-breaking cold temperatures through Friday. But a warm-up is on the way. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht joins us with your forecast this weekend.
Hope you're having a good week. Looking ahead to the next week, end of February into March, a temperature outlook kind of flips back. We started with below average temperatures for nearly 2/3 of the United States last week. This week, we get more normal conditions. We got some blue there and some blue down there, but mostly red out here to the west. And that's a big signal that ridge of high pressure is going to be building back to the west. It is going to work to the east. So I expect middle of March to see warmer than average conditions kind of work back here to the east as well. And with that ridge, that is going to set up a bit of a blocking pattern for any kind of precipitation or possible snowfall across the United States as well. So you kind of see that with that ridge out here to the west, the energy that possibly comes off of the Pacific or any kind of major snow systems really can't cut through the United States and pick up a lot of the Gulf moisture. Instead, you get weak clipper systems coming down off of the ridge, and that's why you see the wetter than normal conditions and that green contour between the 25th and the 1st of March. So kind of isolated back up here towards the border and to the northeast with those weak clipper systems towards the tail end of February and also into March. What that looks like from the jet stream, it could have, again, a little bit of energy working through the jet stream, but since this isn't matching up with anything going on at the surface, that support just isn't there for widespread showers or widespread winter storms like what we just went through this past week. So on Monday and into Tuesday, there's the ridge starting to build. And the stronger this ridge gets back up here to the north, the quieter the pattern will become. But it could also bring down some of the colder temperatures to the northeast, kind of that give and take. As this goes up, this trough over here is going to go down, and that's an indication of a pocket of colder air into the northeast. So by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we start to see not only that trough, that shallow trough here, but that ridge starting to build over Montana and eventually into the Dakotas. So that's why confidence is high in above average temperatures for, I'd say, a third of the United States, a big part of the United States, to the west coast, and then around average temperatures over here towards the Midwest, the Southeast, as well as the East and the Northeast. Again, that's the jet stream on Tuesday. By Wednesday, there's a weak clipper system scooting down from the north to the south, and then by Friday, the ridge builds once again off the west coast.
All right, thanks, Matt. Now, March corn futures reached $5 this week. What's fueling that market? Plus, will the U.S. ever be able to compete with Brazil again on soybeans? Tyne Morgan hosts the marketing discussion this weekend from Top Producer Summit in Kansas City with Dan Bosse, Harlan Suderman, and Drew Lerner. Next.
Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this weekend from right here at Top Producer Summit in beautiful, sunny, and not so warm Kansas City. It has been brutal this week, but we're glad to be inside here at the Lowe's Hotel. Drew Lerner, as well as Dan Bosse and Harlan Suderman, to really break down what's happening in Brazil. But before we focus on Brazil, let's talk about the markets this week. Harlan, March corn futures hit $5. Has anything fundamentally changed that's fueling the market this week?
Well, for the corn market, yeah, we're tightening stocks. The major exporter stocks are getting tight. We basically have taken the cushion out of the market in case we do have a problem. I would say we have not yet tightened the fundamentals to the point of justifying rationing demand, but the ironic thing is you take cash prices up $1 and we really haven't slowed down demand. That's the good news.
Demand has been the story. I mean, yes, we had some changes in supply in USDA's January report, but the demand has been phenomenal. I mean, Dan, do you think that corn demand can continue at this pace in 2025?
So I think a lot of it depends on terms of where we are in Safrinha, getting that crop in the ground, and then making sure these farmers out here plant 93 or 94 million acres. If that happens, that causes end users to rear back just a little bit and say, hey, I've got other supplies. We're close to getting Argentinian and Ukrainian corn competitive with the U.S. again. That hasn't happened. But those are the things we're watching. But to Arlen's point, I mean, it's tight. It doesn't take much of a spark to go higher, but we're here. And I think the questions now are supply going forward more than demand.
Drew, he mentioned the safrinha corn crop, and really the concern when you look in South America has been the delay possibly in the safrinha corn crop. Where do we sit? Are they getting that crop planted?
Yeah, they are getting it planted. It looks like it's moving along fairly quickly right now. The weather churned about a week ago, and it looks like it'll continue for several more days. Next week, we may see a little bit more rain, but these guys are planting like crazy right now, and they're making great progress. And I think that we'll probably get most of the crop in. There's a chance for some rain next week that may interfere with that a little bit, but these Brazilian farmers, they can get a lot done in a very short period of time.
That's not really what we wanted to hear. Hoping that there was a weather story down in Brazil right now, especially with that safrinha corn crop. But is that pretty much baked into the market at this point, Arlen, the size of this crop?
I think it is baked in. Now the question is, where do we go from here? Does it get tighter? If you look at similar years, we've caught up in a lot of our planting. The two slower years in recent years were 2021 and 2023. In one of those years, we saw the rainy season last longer, and they had a bumper crop. In the other year, it ended a little earlier, and we had a short crop. The difference between those two crops was about 2 billion bushels. That's 2 billion of exportable supplies there or not. So that'll have a big impact, therefore, on our exports as we go into next marketing year. How big a crop do they have? When do the rains quit?
Dan, can the U.S. farmer, can we compete with Brazil again?
We are the U.S. farmer, unfortunately, is in that position of being the high-cost major exporter in the world. And it's just because of our land costs and some of our other variable costs that are there today. We can compete, but when I look at Brazil and I look at the double cropping and I look at the land cost that's 30% less, yeah, their inputs cost a little more, but they've spent a lot of money on logistics. It's happening down there. They keep moving. My farm clients in Brazil are talking about planting 3% more crop next year. I don't see an end to the expansion, unfortunately. So, you know, it really becomes a question of the global demand and where's the next demand driver once we get through this corn market that, you know, I believe will peak, unless we have a weather problem in the U.S. this summer, in the next couple of months.
Well, weather problem, we've got to get the crop planted first. A lot of question marks on what is the spring outlook. So, Drew, we need to take a quick break, but then I'm coming to you, okay?
All right.
We're going to talk about the spring planting season, but we need to take a quick break here on U.S. Farm Report. We'll be back in just a moment.
U.S. Farm Report on the road from the 2025 Top Producer Summit is brought to you by BASF, helping you do the biggest job on earth. By Nutrient Economics, an entire team of agronomists always with you. And by Tyrannus, moving the acre forward. Every acre tells a story. Find yours at acreforward.com. That's acreforward.com.
Welcome back. Well, the first roundtable, we spent quite a bit of time looking at Brazil. But as we shift our focus now to the U.S. planting season, we will have the Ag Outlook Forum next week, kind of give the first take of what USDA thinks acreage is going to be. But what is your weather outlook for spring? Is it going to be favorable enough that we could get 95+ million acres of corn even planted this year?
It is going to start off being a little dry in the western corn belt, plenty of moisture in the east. So the odds are fairly good that we will likely get a lot of work done quickly. The problem is that the subsoil moisture is going to be a bit low, and especially in the western corn belt, Iowa, Nebraska, parts of Kansas and Missouri, and even Illinois eventually. This drier bias is with us right now. If we continue bringing these cold shots of air coming through North America, we will still have a below normal precipitation bias as we go forward through that spring planting season. And then what will end up happening if we've been cold all the way through March, which I think we will be, there'll be a knee-jerk reaction in the atmosphere. We'll suddenly go very warm, and it will go warm and still have a drier tendency around. Now, there'll be some timely rain, so we'll be able to get the crop in the ground, and that's why I think we'll have good progress made. But in the bigger picture of things, we could dry out a little bit more significantly as we move deeper into spring and towards summer.
Arlen, hearing a lot of different acreage estimates right now. Where does Stone X sit?
Well, right now we're at 93.5 billion acres, which is up about 3 million from last year. But I have an alternate scenario I'm using right now, 95.5 million acres, which would be up 5 million acres essentially. While we're going to do another survey and collect more data right around March 1st when USDA does, because we're just hearing enough feedback from the seed industry about how big their corn seed sales are versus their soybean seed sales. And so if there's a bias to it, it's to the upside right now.
Dan, where do you sit?
I agree. I mean, we're at 93, and I just got back from a conference in Jonesboro in the Delta, and I was just shocked how many Delta farmers want to plant corn and abandon cotton and rice. And so if you think about that part of the world, that corn will be available to the market, late August, September. I believe that Arlen's right. Our stuff, we will do a survey again in the middle of March, but our surveys are pointing upwards, and I wouldn't be surprised by 94 million plus at some point.
Drew, as we talk about La Nina, I know looking at the summer forecast is quite a bit of ways, but as you look at some of your analog years from the past, what is your forecast for this summer? We're hearing possibly that we could be in some trouble and have some drought in places. Are there any hints of that right now?
There are definitely some hints, but it's not because of La Nina. La Nina will be gone by the time we get into mid-March. And the influence, this La Nina hasn't lasted long enough to really have a big footprint in the atmosphere. So as we get into April, it'll be pretty much a non-event. But we do have some other things that are playing out here. Certainly with the dry bias that I've already mentioned is going to be in the soil. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is if we do warm up quickly in the spring, which is a high possibility, we could end up falling behind the 8 ball a little bit on the soil moisture. So that kind of sets the stage for a little bit of a drier bias right off the bat. Then we have to consider the negative phase of Pacific decadal oscillation. And that's been with us for a long time, and we have not had a tremendous amount of impact from that in past years, but this year could be different. And I'm seeing some additional cooling off the west coast of North America that may end up leading us into a greater ridge building with all the dryness that's in the soil and that negative PDO. So there's a potential there. I'm not ready to go all the way over with it, but that's where I'm headed.
Dry bias is what he's talking about. So as farmers are trying to prepare, and really how much of this year's crop do I need to get sold right now? Arlen, what are you telling producers?
I'm saying we're still in that part of the cycle, and we've been through enough of these cycles over the years. They tend to last for 3, 4, even 5 years at times, that you don't want to be focused on the home run hitting. You want to be hitting singles and doubles and focus on maintaining the equity that we built in our farms in recent years. Take advantage of the rallies as they come, and then hope that we sell the next unit of corn higher prices.
All right, I appreciate you all being here. We need to take a quick break, and then we will be back with much more U.S. Farm Report in just a moment.
Hey folks, welcome back to Tractor Tales. This week we're headed to Kansas for the story on a farm all that still always has something to do.
This tractor has a lot of significance in our family, as my dad started farming as a very young individual in the late 30s. He had farmed with his dad and helped his dad, of course, prior to that. His first tractor was a 1936 F20 that we have here. Now normally, many of you know, in 1936, farm all F20s were painted gray. This is a very late F20 manufactured in November of 1936 after the change to red. So therefore it's red. My dad was in awe, shall we say, having his first tractor. And so he decided that he would never get rid of his tractor. He would keep it regardless. He would never trade it off. He would never leave a Kennedy farm. And that he did. And it was quite interesting over the years because being limited with no hydraulics and minimal features, he always tried to find something for the F20 to do. And so in later years, he turned it into a spray tractor because of the high rear axles. It worked out very, very well for him. And he put large tires on it and get the speed that he needed for spraying. So it has been a very special tractor. I grew up around it, and my dad gave it to me prior to passing, and I have always enjoyed working with it and showing it.
All right, thanks, Greg. Well, for one Colorado farmer, success isn't just measured by the different crops he grows on his farm. It's also measured by how he's growing his own community. His ability to reinvent the family operation is what helped make Mark Arnish this year's Top Producer of the Year award winner. We'll show you his impressive journey and story next.
You're watching U.S. Farm Report. Trusted, timely, tradition.
For Colorado farmer Mark Arnish, the biggest key to success just may be his ability to constantly pivot and change. His farm's theme is "We grow things," but it's not just crops, it's people, it's families, and it's communities. And as we show you this weekend, Mark's vision to reshape his farm while controlling his own destiny made him the 2025 Top Producer of the Year. As he checks last year's crops and thinks about the future,
I think this will go here pretty quick.
Colorado farmer Mark Arnish and his team are excited about what's ahead.
At the end of the day, this is about family. It's about growing an operation. It's about growing a community. It's about helping others lead. And that's been the greatest reward.
Getting to those rewards has been a journey for this operation located in Prospect Valley, about 35 miles northeast of Denver.
My family immigrated to the United States in 1952 from Austria.
It was the sugar beet that lured them to the Colorado climate, and it was a key part of the farm until the late 20-teens.
I was doing all the finances, telling him we can't do this anymore. This is uncomfortable for me. I don't feel right about this. We've got to change. We've got to move.
And that was hard. When I had to tell my dad that I grew my last sugar beet crop, you can imagine he wasn't very happy about that.
Today, they grow seed wheat, seed barley, grains for the craft beer and spirits industries, black-eyed peas, alfalfa, and food-grade corn.
Growing a grain for a distillery, taking on a new crop like a black-eyed pea that had never even been grown in this region of Colorado, there's certainly some risk there, but there's also the reward.
It's a way to control their own destiny and decommoditize a commodity. Diversification has been the key to weathering the challenges of Colorado.
But when everything comes together, when everything works, we can yield with some of the best in the country. We don't always get along with Mother Nature. Hailstorms are frequent here in this area, and we're a very dry climate. But when we're in the de-risking business, and so we try to de-risk our operation everywhere we can.
Instead, they're finding ways to supplement the farm beyond the field. Good snow melt and a good aquifer means excess water is available for other uses during certain times of the year.
Weld County has more oil and gas wells in it than all of Saudi Arabia combined. And part of that development process requires a large amount of water. We had it in the right place, in the right time, in close proximity to where it needed to be delivered. And so Ag Water Alliance was born.
They also started a captive insurance company to help take catastrophic risk off the table. And soon, they'll continue to expand on that family motto of growing things as they look to grow their community.
We're getting ready to develop my grandfather's farm. And so I would imagine you've not heard too many farmers say, I plan to build on top of my family's legacy.
The goal is to bring resources, services, and amenities back to their small town that were common just 50 years ago. Things like healthcare, assisted living, and a place for new businesses to locate. With their son and his new family by their side and a new farm manager, the future is bright.
Farming goes beyond just the seed that you plant in the field, the crop that you grow, the equipment that you have. It's about investing in tomorrow. And our future at this farm is one built on tomorrow.
They recognize all of this is a gift.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't really know your business. And you can make decisions on bad numbers and bad advice, and it goes away very quickly.
This Colorado operation may have faced adversity, but their willingness to reinvent the farm is why they're a candidate for the 2025 Top Producer of the Year. And congratulations to Mark and the Arnish family. Now, we celebrated Mark and the other Top Producer of the Year finalists Tuesday night during Top Producer. Tyne will share more of those stories in the coming weeks. From a new case of New World screwworm that fueled the cattle market to USDA's plan to forecast the ag economy in 2025, given so much uncertainty about trade. We have a glimpse of ag around the world next. Now for a look at ag around the world. Mexico reporting another case of New World screwworm, but USDA says it will continue to import cattle from that country. It's reported that the case was detected in a cow in Tabasco State. USDA had previously banned Mexican livestock shipments back in November, but lifted the restrictions on February 1st under new pre-clearance protocols. The pest, which can cause severe damage to livestock, wildlife, and occasionally humans, has raised concerns among traders. But despite this latest detection, USDA affirmed that its inspection and treatment protocols ensure safe cattle movement into the U.S. amid historically low domestic supplies. Now, this coming week, USDA's highly anticipated Ag Outlook Forum will be held in Washington. USDA will give its first look at acreage, as well as paint the economic outlook for 2025. But how do you forecast a year where there is so much uncertainty with trade? That's exactly what Tyne asked USDA's chief economist, Seth Meyer, at Top Producer this week.
We will produce an outlook which is policy in place. So while there has been there's been a lot of talk about tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, Canada tariffs in Mexico. Right now, we don't have anything in place. So we'll do an outlook absent that, okay? But we are ready, we are prepared, we are building the tools, and you've seen the Secretary say it in other venues. We're making sure we have the tools in place to understand what the impact on agriculture is from such actions. So we are prepared internally to do the calculations necessary to support the Secretary of Agriculture. But when we do an outlook right now, we don't have anything in place that tariffs are actually in place. Creates a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace, but we'll do an outlook based on that.
We also asked Meyer if he thinks the impressive demand for corn can continue in 2025. He didn't give a straight yes answer, but he did say he thinks the strong demand and prices are swaying acreage decisions for farmers this year, with an uptick in U.S. corn acres. And that's a glimpse at Ag Around the World. Ag Secretary Rollins says her top priority right now is controlling the outbreak of avian flu across the U.S. How is that different from the last administration? Tyne and Chip join us for Chip's Corner from Top Producer Summit next.
Welcome back to Top Producer Summit here in Kansas City with Chip Flory for Chip's Corner. Chip had an exclusive opportunity to sit down with the new Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, this week. And Chip, it really was an insightful conversation. What was the biggest thing that you learned?
Well, a couple of things. It wasn't really an exclusive. You were there with me, and so was Clinton. It was a team effort on that conversation. And one of the things that I wanted to talk with Secretary Rollins about is something that I think is a huge story out there, and it's the bird flu. I mean, it's being covered everywhere, but I think it deserves even more attention than what it has been given, Tyne, because the effort to try to get in front of this virus, in front of this disease, and to manage it is a monumental task. It's much bigger than what anybody was thinking it would be. And, you know, we've got this problem in the United States, and we asked Rollins, why? Why is it such a problem here in the States?
Well, we are still working on the plan right now. Clearly, this is a massive issue for our poultry producers, especially our egg layers, that segment of the community. And so ensuring that we have a plan, not just for the short term to bring down egg prices, which the president's very focused on, but for the long term. What are the best practices around the world? Why in America have we been hit so hard? Why did the last USDA a couple of years ago, they recognized it as a major issue, but not many steps were taken. So we've got really smart people on this right now, not just from within the USDA, but over at the White House who are really focused on it. I've been talking to governors, I've been talking to the companies that are facing this, I've been talking to we've been talking to everyone, trying to come up with talk about the toolkit, a big toolkit to be able to really approach this and hopefully figure out a way to, again, solve it for the long term.
One thing I thought was interesting, Chip, is she says her number one priority is avian flu, getting this under control. Her number two priority right after avian flu is getting the disaster and emergency relief payments out to farmers. She made that very clear.
Very clear. There's no doubt about it. And when you think about why avian influenza and bird flu, HPAI, whatever you want to call it, why it is such a high priority for her is because think about where it stands on the president's priority list. Getting grocery prices down. It's something that he ran and he won with as he was campaigning for the presidency.
Thanks, Chip. Well, you can actually check out that full conversation that Chip had with Secretary Rollins. That's on the Farm Journal YouTube page. All right, we need to take a quick break, and then when we come back, the Next Generation Award winner, I am telling you, his story is inspiring. We'll share that story next.
Dalton Dildine's dad unexpectedly passed away when he was just a senior in high school. At the time, there wasn't a detailed succession plan in place, and that left Dalton with a choice. As Michelle Rook shows us this weekend, it's his ability to overcome adversity that makes him the 2025 Top Producer Next Gen Award winner.
Well, I'm pretty proud. I've worked really hard to be where I am.
Fourth-generation Arkansas farmer Dalton Dildine always dreamed of farming and following in his father's footsteps.
I knew I wanted to farm and really couldn't imagine doing anything else.
But Dalton's dad unexpectedly passed away when he was a senior with a limited succession plan in place, leaving him with the choice to take over the operation, start his own farm, or go to college. He chose all three.
I would go to school and come home. After I graduated, I started taking over the whole operation and really tried to do things that my father would be proud of and that I could be proud for myself, and just tried to do my best every day.
He co-managed Half Moon Farm with his mother until 2010 when he went on his own, creating Mesa Luna Farms.
We farm in the Delta of Arkansas. We maintain about 6,000 acres, cotton, soybeans, wheat, corn, and rice.
2,700 acres of that are owned, the rest rented, and the farm employs 4 full-time workers.
One way or avenue that we've went down was going to H-2A workers, because most of them have worked on a farm or know about farming.
Dildine prides himself on continuous improvement and profitability.
One of my big goals is to just try to be efficient. Whatever can be done. We use technology. We buy bigger equipment to be able to do more with less. Just finding people that want to work on our farm and want to help and understand how a farm works has been a big help for us.
He also pushes his yields, working with NRCS on conservation programs and quickly adapting new technology.
We have moisture sensors in our fields that will tell me the optimal time to start irrigation, turn off irrigation. A lot of automation on our farm. Most of our wells I can start with my phone and turn them off, and they'll tell me if something's going on. Our equipment with GPS, I can sit in my office and kind of see what's going on in the field. That's been a huge blessing.
Dildine also purchased a commercial grain facility during the harvest season of 2022 amid a drought that was leading to significant decreases in basis due to low river levels.
It's about 750,000 bushel storage. Right now we're using or able to use about 600,000 of that capability. I can dump trucks in about 6 minutes and I can load them out in about 12, which is pretty fast for a private grain facility.
Beyond the adversity of losing his dad, he also suffered a major injury shortly after he started farming, crushing 2 vertebrae in his back.
I had a long road of recovery right in the beginning of farming year. I had to do a whole lot of talking on the phone and teaching somebody else how to run that sprayer, and it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with.
But he learned a valuable lesson that served him well on the farm.
Taught myself to be a whole lot more patient and to not be wide open all the time.
Dildine's wife, Skyver, a family nurse practitioner, also assists on the farm and says she couldn't be prouder.
So I'm just proud of him. He's worked very hard throughout the years. He didn't have a mentor in his younger years to kind of guide him through some of the hard farming lessons, and he's learned those on his own and with the help of others. But he's just really put in a lot of legwork and a lot of tears and blood, and just really powered through all the adversities and come out on top. So I'm proud.
And despite that, Dildine says he's reached many of his farming goals, and others can too.
I want young farmers to be aware that you can do it. It's not impossible as often as it feels like.
Congratulations to Dalton Dildine, this year's Next Generation Award winner.
Congratulations to Dalton. Well, up next, she traded the Big Apple and a six-figure job for her parents' ranch. And they weren't happy about it at first, but what she's done since has put her family's operation on the map. We'll introduce you to the 2025 Women in Ag winner next. She traded the Big Apple for a community beef business. Kimberly Ratcliffe is a Texas rancher whose journey to the ranch included a fork in the road. But her mission is more than just raising beef. It's to inspire and help others. And as time shows us this weekend, her impressive resume and her pursuit to do more for her community is why she's the 2025 Top Producer Women in Ag Award winner.
This is right where Kimberly Ratcliffe was born to be.
It rained 2 days ago.
Amid the Bermuda grass and cattle of Caney Creek Ranch in Oakwood, Texas.
Just like life evolves, agriculture's evolving, and I'm excited for this new evolution in agriculture.
Her journey back to the Texas Plains began with big dreams in the Big Apple.
I ended up going to college in New York City. I really thought New York City was what I wanted. I really thought that was the lifestyle I wanted.
Working at Bloomberg in marketing and public relations, she found herself being pulled back toward commodities.
That hit me hard, and I realized I think I need to go back home because I have enough knowledge of how this financial institution works. But I don't think the community understands how that affects them.
Her father and ranch owner Wesley remembers the phone call following a recent visit.
Then when she got back, she said, "Dad, I want to join you." I said, No. I can't pay you even close to what they're paying up there. She said, "That's not my problem." I said, "Now, you don't know anything about cow business, do you?" She said, "I'm going to school."
And she did. She entered the TCU Ranch Management program, and a few years later was the first African American to graduate. She moved home and went to work.
So I would get people driving up to the house and wanted to put their eyes on me. Did you really come home? Because people always say they want to come home, but they never do it.
My daughter coming back here honestly was not something that I was thrilled about. She's kind of bossy. And I had one boss already, her mama, and now I had two bosses.
Kimberly started Ratcliffe Premium Meats, a direct-to-consumer beef business with a story to tell.
Being a woman in this industry and being a black woman, I think the number one thing is I honestly have the best support system here in my community. And they're the one pushing me.
I'm happy to see her venture out and try to do something different. And I would never have gotten into the meat business. She wanted to get into the meat business, and I didn't have a problem with her getting into it. I like them alive where I can go and move them when I want to, and I can look at the market and figure out when I want to sell one, when I want to buy one.
And it's a family affair, as she's also getting help from her brothers.
In 5 years, my goal is to have all my family working for us.
As demand grows, this family operation is expanding and helping more in their community.
In the ag community, I need your cattle. I need you to keep your land. I need you to have healthy cattle. I need you to have great grass and great soil. I need you to have all those things that will make me successful. So how can I help you with your success?
She's sharing that success with local and state food banks.
The first thing I support is my local food bank. Every month I make sure they are stocked with every protein they can. I don't even want them ever to have to worry about buying protein external.
It's that kind of heart for others, helping her honor this opportunity, and her mother, who passed away from breast cancer in 2019.
She was just fighting because she saw the success that I was doing, and she wanted to be here to say, I'm proud of you, right? And then I know she's still proud of me. Yeah, I know she's still proud of me.
Proud of her work she's done and the difference she's making.
Really taking us back to the root of what agriculture is about and how it started with the small, large, all working together to feed the world.
Kimberly Ratcliffe, this year's 2025 Top Producer Women in Ag Award winner.
Now at the Top Producer Awards banquet this week, Kimberly said her dad is quite the character, as we just saw. But before Kimberly's father bought his first ranch, he actually worked for NASA and helped land a man on the moon working for Apollo 11. Congratulations to all the award winners this week. And from all of us at U.S. Farm Report, I'm Clinton Griffiths, in for Tyne Morgan. Thank you for watching, and be sure to join us right here again next week as we work to build on our tradition. Have a great weekend, everyone.
U.S. Farm Report is produced and distributed by Farm Journal Broadcast.